What's up, future shred lords? Welcome back. Death to the fingers. I apologize about yesterday. Basically, my rib cage totally demoed. I broke a couple ribs, and I haven't slept in a couple weeks. And I was up last night at midnight and whatnot, and by 8:30, I was like, you know, I should really just go to the hospital and get this checked out because I'm still in a lot of pain. And I want to make sure that I haven't done anything too significant. And of course, I'm like, I'll get in and out. You know, I'll be back by noon, maybe 4 or 5 hours. I'll have time to make a video. Negative, we went in there for a barrage of tests, and I live in Canada, and everything takes forever because, you know, socialized medicine and all that good stuff. But whatever. After everything was said and done, it was just way too late, and I was mentally exhausted, and I was just like, I think I just want to go to bed at 5 o'clock. So the good news is I'll live. I guess that may be good news to some of you. Some other people are like, really? Damn. But there's that. But then, of course, the doctor's also like, you got to take a bit of a break. So I'm going to make this video here, obviously. We'll make a real video with guitar on Sunday. I'll take the rest of the time off. And then back to regular programming on Tuesday. I appreciate every single one of you. I really do. It's just, you know, I had a really great run of good luck for about 4 years. And then when I was building this new computer, I don't know. The bow broke. I was going to say break. Woo! I am really tired. Wow. The bow broke. And down came the baby right on my head. And just plastered me. Like you see in the old cartoons, man. Whoops. With the anvil, the only thing I need is that big, massive sort of lump on the top of my head, which happens to be in my rib cage right now. The doctor started laughing when he was like, okay, let's have a look. And he just kind of chuckled, and I'm like, really? And he's like, I'm sorry, man. He's like, you really effed yourself up. So, you know. There's that. Right. So dealing with negativity. There is no real solution for dealing with negativity. The solution is actually going in the complete opposite direction. Like, first off, negativity can be constructive. So, you know, if you get into a rut or something, or you know you're not putting in 100%, or you've let your practice schedule lapse, or whatever it is, only you are going to be the person to get out there and basically put on the old farmer's boot and give yourself a kick in the ass. Nobody else can do that. You have to do that. And so if you do it in the right way, that can actually be a very powerful motivational tool, and you can get a lot accomplished. But you have to sort of, you know, walk a fine line. You can't be overly brutal with yourself because you could potentially damage you know, your forward progress because you're expecting too much too soon. As far as the internet negativity stuff is, like, how do you even know you're talking to a real human being? It's not AI or a bot or something like that. We've all seen the videos on Twitter or whatever else, right? With these bot farms and these I don't even know how they do the AI one. Obviously, it's probably run out of the big ones. You're seeing like this tiny little part of ChatGPT, and the rest of ChatGPT is this monstrous octopus that just reaches out into the internet and interacts with people. It's the dark side of what you don't see. It receives the input from human beings as they sit there and type into it and all this stuff, and then it sort of interprets that data and then whatever disperses it on the other end as, you know, hateful comments or positive comments for things or whatever it is, whatever it's attempting to control or affect or whatever it is. I don't know. But the thing is people get really wrapped up about people saying mean stuff about them on the internet and whatnot. And, or saying your music sucks or you suck as a musician. There's a whole bunch of variations of that. And realistically speaking, it's either them, you know, hopelessly trying to cope because you own them, which is most likely, or it's, you know, AI being negative. You know, I've actually a firm belief that since the music industry is doing so bad, that is it really so far off to think that they might employ bot farms to go around and discourage good musicians from actually pursuing the music thing, because it would bring their entire industry into disrepute? Like, who wants to listen to, you know, Megan Thee Stallion or Beyonce choke through some other, you know, really, really horrendous rendition of, like, you know, cultural vandalism, I guess, you know? Oh, Beyonce is doing a country album or whatnot. Really? Oh, okay. Sure. As opposed to the person that's actually got real skill and people can see it for real. Now, we have our own problems, obviously, the fake Instagram guitar player, and countless other sort of incarnations of that nonsense. So it's not all smooth sailing and all the rest of it. But again, that's kind of like an infection that is derived because these people are obsessed with monetization, with money. They're not into it for the music, which is really weird. Like, it may have started out that way, and it probably did, because some of them have a lot of skill. Even if you have to air guitar the stuff, still have to play it at some point in time, unless you're that Giacomo guy, which, man, I mean, I'm finding it hard to believe that he recorded the solos at half speed, then sped them up, and then made videos like that. I'm just like, what? Are you kidding me? What? That's nuts. But there it is, right? So the internet's not real. So your priorities shouldn't be, oh, go out there and promote the living hell out of your music. The priority should be just make a constant stream of music that you can release to the internet. And there's going to be a portion of people that like it, and there's going to be a portion of people that are going to criticize it. And you just kind of roll with the punches. Now, listen, if somebody puts a legitimate complaint up and they're like, your music sucks, and you know your song sucked because reasons XYZ, then that's on you. Like, there's not every situation where somebody's saying something negative that doesn't actually hold a kernel of truth. We all suck at one point, and we continue to suck for a very long time. It doesn't matter. Only a few people in the world get tapped on the shoulder by the music gods, and they're like, you're the next one. You're the next anointed one. It's just the way it goes. For the rest of us, we're Sisyphus pushing that boulder up the mountain. You know what I mean? Just hoping we're not going to get smushed. And that's what happens. People who practice music in the appropriate and the sort of like thoughtful manner, well, they become all bulked up like Arnold's, right? And they're easily handle the weight of the boulder and the steepness of the hill as you push it up the mountain. Other people, they only work on certain aspects of their playing. So other parts are really weak. So eventually when it starts getting difficult, because you have to be able to do all of these techniques at once, the boulder just overpowers them and just rolls them over, and they're just a splat on the side of the mountain. And usually after that happens, they quit. Because they're like, well, I have invested all this time and I don't feel like going back and making corrections or whatever it is to those obvious sort of situations where you were overly concentrating on this one thing because whatever was getting you attention or something else, and ignoring these other ones like scales and chords. And now all of a sudden there's this massive imbalance and you're in deep trouble. So again, negativity can be a good tool, especially when it's creative and constructive. And you have to actually take it so that you can actually, you know, build up a bit of a tougher skin, of course. But more importantly is just get a different perspective on something that you're automatically going to think is awesome. I think all my music's awesome. I'm biased, of course, as hell, you know. But that's just how the game works. I don't make the rules. But other people are like, some of it's shit. Fair enough. And that's just it. See what I did there? Okay. It's not their cup of tea. Fair enough. I understand that. I really do. You know what I mean? But here's the thing: as a musician, I way prefer, to actually, cultivate many horizons rather than just be stuck in one particular place. So, to do something at a really super high level in a particular genre of music requires a lot of specialized training to be able to, pull it off, I guess you could say. And I'm just not interested in that kind of stuff because to me, it's way too limiting. I just want to use key parts and then just kind of do my own thing. If that makes me a bad person or whatever, well, so be it. But, so the internet should be just completely disregarded as far as a source of negativity unless you see some decent constructive criticism. And again, like I said, you should be spending the majority of your time making music. I spent about 6 years. I think I wrote about 300 songs. It was just write song week after week after week after week. I didn't even concern myself with mixing them or anything else like that. I remember I had this really, really crappy drum machine. I should put some of the old mixes up so you hear them, just how absolutely atrocious they are. They're just brutal. Right, but the thing is just to get the experience and the sort of the skill, if you will, of sitting down and writing music, dealt with. And trust me, there was a lot of negativity involved with that because you're like, oh man, this song sucks and you suck. And you sit there, you have a bit of writer's block and then the pressure builds and all the rest of that. So it's definitely challenging, but I soldiered on. And then by about song 300, I was like noticing a distinct change in the way I write music. And I was like, I'm no longer bound to doing just the simple stuff. I've sort of, I've completely tilled that earth. Now I need to move on to sort of like greener pastures and start to develop other skills where I can write longer pieces of music, but blend many different styles together. So I create like this huge tapestry of music rather than just a monolithic slab. And there it is. And there were many, 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 many times during the early days of the 300 songs when people would say the most evil shit to me of all time. I mean, that's fine, man. I mean, it's the internet. So you can't take it too seriously, but that's just it. As far as the negativity is concerned, I didn't really notice it, that it affected me that much because I was just like, well, like that's your opinion, man. The classic dudism there, but also that I was just too into writing music and having fun. So, I just put the music out, post a song, and I'm like, okay, here you go. And, they get, mostly positive comments. And then every once in a while, of course, you're going to fixate on the negative ones. But after that, I was just like, okay, no problem. Eventually, again, once you start to get into the game a little bit, that's just part and parcel with being a musician. And again, you don't even really know if the comment in and of itself is coming from a real human being or AI or a bot. Is it really so implausible to think that the record companies that are losing their shirt right now and their relevance and the power of their industry is dramatically waning? Let's face it, OF models have way more pull than a modern pop star. Right? Like the mask kind of got ripped off with the Katy Perry and the Taylor Swifts and stuff like that. Like Katy got absolutely dragged and she deserved it too. But that's my thing. That era is over. It's basically dead. And so, Taylor will never hit the same heights that she had before. The next album will come out and it'll probably be relatively a disappointment. And that'll just signal the end of this ridiculous era of music that we have. But is it really so inconceivable that they might employ bot farms and other sort of surreptitious means to go on the internet and discourage great musicians from being interested in music, basically, because they're like, we don't need the competition. If we can't do the Taylor Swifts and the Katy Perrys and whoever else, the, you know, whatever Beyonce's, then we'll fall back on classic rock. Of course, we own all the rights to most of the music, or it's been sold off to private equity firms and stuff like that for millions and millions of dollars. And they're just trying to protect their interests. So this is a serious consideration when you're actually sort of being like, is this person being legitimately negative to me, or are they just trying to hurt my feelings because I said something mean to them on the internet? And again, it's so easy to get wrapped around the axle, if you will, with respect to when somebody says something naughty to you or whatever, you know, something spicy. So it's hard not to sort of take it personally, because nobody likes bad news, I guess you could say. But the thing is you can't sort of allow it to rule over you either. You got to take everything in stride. And the most important thing is not just maintaining a positive attitude, because nobody maintains a perfectly positive attitude all the time. That's just stupid. What you need to do is basically stay motivated and work in sort of controlled bursts where there can be a little sort of downtime in between. And that's where the negativity can exist. And you're sort of like, all right, come on, pick it up, pick it up. I know you're tired, pick it up. You know, when you're going for that personal best in the gym, or you're trying to, you know, run your fastest lap, or whatever it is that you do, where you sort of have this metric to be like, I could do better. And that's what you should be really, you know, shooting for the most part, is just the best representation of who you are as a musician, as opposed to whether someone else thinks you're great. Once you start believing and start working towards being great, you will be great. Now, there's a fine line there between, you know, an unhinged ego and being humble and well-versed in the skill of guitar, right? There's a very fine line there. But it can be maintained. Just be humble and be like, you know, I'm going to work on this stuff for me and try to be the best guitar player, and then look up to the greatest players that we've ever produced and stuff like that, whoever that may be for you, and be like, one day I could be like them. And then the next time, maybe you are as good as them, and then you'll be like, maybe I'll be as recognized to them. Like Steve Vai, people will know my name too. And you'll work towards that. So, you know, you got to keep consistently ramping up and whatnot, but you don't go from being like, oh, I'm going to be a social media nobody to a rock star in like 1 year, which tends to be, you know, some people's life goal and stuff like that. And they wonder why they just burn out. It's negativity, right? They don't actually take their learning arc seriously enough to understand it takes years, not a couple months, years. And at the end, I'll say it again and end the video with this. You should be satisfied with whatever it is that you actually accomplish. Now, if you want to give up in the middle and only get as good as you're going to get and be like, I really don't want to get better than this, that's on you. Nobody's complaining or anything else, but that's on you. It's not on us. But if you wake up every morning and you're like, I'm going to be a little bit better than I was last week, you know what I mean? Or yesterday's practice session or whatever it was, then that is the true sort of like pathway forward to mitigate the negativity in your life, but also sort of elevate all of the positivity, because that motivation, if you will, to sort of elevate your skill pays off over the months and the years. And there have been many times in my guitar life, if you will, where I actually stopped in the middle of playing dead and was like, I did it. I finally did it. And then I just had that skill afterwards. And some days I was the shred lord, and other days, not so much. So, take it with a grain of salt. But there will come a day when you just reach for the brass ring and actually snatch it off the pedestal. And there it is. And for that day, think of it this way, for that day, you get to wear it. And then the next day, the brass ring is there a little higher. And you just keep working on that premise. In the guitar world, we're the Sisyphus, right? Certain people are touched on the shoulder by the guitar gods or whatever it is, and they're like, you're the anointed one. For the rest of us, mortals, we're Sisyphus pushing that boulder up the mountain. And so if you think of it like that you have to invest way more work than what you're actually going to get out of it. Once you become resigned with that sort of position mentally, then music becomes this infinite source of fun and interest. Because, the obvious, you're no longer interested in what music can get you. You're more interested in what you can derive from music personally. See you in the next one.